Tuchel's squad selection has got us into a bit of trouble.
I'm not sure England have ever been in such a position where we've got no idea what the best team is.
Come on, you can't tell me that Jordan Henderson is adding more value to this England team than Trent Alexander-Arnold would be. You can't tell me that Dan Burn is adding more value than Trent Alexander-Arnold would be.
As the game kind of progressed and the keeper kept making save after save, you thought, yeah, this could be another Iceland.
Mexico obviously are used to playing at altitude. England aren't. It's going to be a really, really tough game.
Hello and welcome to the Game Football Podcast from the Times and Sunday Times. This is day 21 of our daily World Cup shows, and England are through to the round of 16, but only just. 2-1 winners against DR Congo thanks to two brilliant comeback goals from Harry Kane. I'm Tom Clarke and I'm joined today by the football writer and Times columnist James Gheerbrant and the former footballer turned journalist Gregor Robertson. What did you make of England's win?
We've all come down a bit from the high of the Croatia game, haven't we? I don't think anyone is feeling as good about England as we were 3 matches ago. And I think Tuchel's squad selection has got us into a bit of trouble, which we can talk about later. But performance-wise, I mean, obviously, take my view from a Dallas English-themed pub with a pinch of salt. But I didn't think England played that badly. I thought they played quite well. I mean, we all know that tournament football is so conditioned by, the state of the game. And, it's very easy to play well in a group game where you score first. And, in a knockout game where you concede early and you're kind of staring at elimination, it's a very different kettle of fish. Although inside we were probably all feeling like it was Iceland 2016 all over again, or even like it was, a bit like, Slovakia at the last Euros. For me, I thought the performance was was a far cry from those games. I thought England basically created a lot of good chances. And Percy clearly had himself a day in the Congo goal. He was brilliant. England kind of kept going, created in the end, I think, over sort of 2.1 XG. I was actually a little surprised it wasn't even a bit higher than that. I'm actually more worried about England's defence and how kind of vulnerable they look in certain kind of defensive situations than I am about their attack. I thought the attack was fine. It's a game of like patience, isn't it? And just, keeping going. And I thought they did that pretty well.
Gregor, listen, with Alison Rudd at Wimbledon, James Gheerbrant has slotted into the Alison Rudd slightly contrarian take role beautifully, hasn't he? Let's be honest. He's stormed in, he's put a marker down, he said, next time Rudd skips town, I'm right here for you guys. What did you think, Gregor? Let the Scotsman have his say. Dire? Awful? Not bad?
For the first half an hour, I thought it was dire, yeah. I thought it was inhibited, it was listless, it was shorn of ideas, it was one-dimensional, it was all those things, and it was Iceland 2016 vibes for me. And as the game kind of progressed and the keeper kept making save after save, you thought, yeah, this could be another Iceland. And I was wondering where it would rank in that sort of list of ignominy. So, look, Harry Kane got you out of jail. I think if he hadn't come up with those two moments, then that would be the conversation. That would be the way that this conversation would be framed. Because, like Hamza tweeted something after the game that England crossed the ball 38 times, and I don't think they had any other ideas. It was just swinging and cross after cross into the box, and some of them were woeful, and a few of them were decent. And Bellingham got on the end of one or two. The header in the 30th minute stoked the embers a little bit. The one that Mpazzi saved brilliantly down. I think it was down to his right. That was a moment that sort of got England going a little bit between then and the end of the half. But I think there was even a spell in the second half where they again looked really, really kind of lethargic, and until the hydration break, and then Thomas Tuchel was really like very animated, and must have been laying it out that like, this is your last chance, guys, and you did see more, and undoubtedly, like. You just watch the game again and you think Bukayo Saka's on the pitch a world of new possibilities opens up. It's just a totally different game when he's on the pitch. The way that when he's running at a defender, it's just a totally different feel to what happens when Madueke is running at a defender. You feel that you can go both ways, but you can also just link play, and you can drive inside, and it's just much more imaginative, basically. And that's not a real criticism of Madueke. He kept trying, and some things came off, some things didn't. But you just realise that in these clutch moments, you've still got after recent games, it's been Bellingham. Harry Kane, again, he's an absolute legend. But Saka, again, I think he changed the game a bit for England. And those three guys, Rice if he's fit, you have people who step up in those moments. I thought actually Elliot Anderson did towards the end. There were a couple of surging runs, and the way he played Bellingham through for the passage of play that led to the goal was just a moment of taking responsibility. That's what you need. You need people who are going to take responsibility and risk when all the weight of pressure is on top of you. And it took so long for England to do that.
You pick up a lot of themes there that I want to come back to, and some players in certain positions. But Johnny Northcroft's match report has just gone live on the Times website. This is the intro. He writes, "With the great ones, the thing is you know what is coming. And Harry Kane is a great one. England's Michael Jordan, certainly the best footballer to represent the country since 1966. The rest of the team, the doubts that whispered after Ghana and spoke louder after Panama came screaming at you at the Atlanta Stadium as by hook, crook and Harry, Thomas Tuchel's team somehow made it to the last 16 of the World Cup." I must say, James, I've been slightly flippant with my cheeky response to your thoughts on the game. I'm probably at the slightly advanced Slovakia stage in terms of my assessment. I was watching this thinking...
advanced Slovakia stage.
It's quite a spectrum, that.
Beyond Slovakia. I'm nowhere near Iceland. I was watching it thinking, listen, they're creating chances here.
It was close to Iceland, mate.
No, I think I was going I thought it would be Jude Bellingham equalise in extra time, is what I thought. I agree the first half was bad. I actually thought after half time, as you say, Gregor, before the interval, mid-half interval in the second half, England actually got worse, and then they got better again. But listen, let's talk about one thing that I'm sure we can all agree on. Harry Kane, as you mentioned there, Gregor, and as Johnny introed in his piece, he scored 10 goals across his 11 major tournament knockout stage appearances. That's 3 more than any other European player in the same period. Kylian Mbappe is next with 7. Kane is also the first England player to score twice in a World Cup knockout stage match since Gary Lineker against Cameroon in the 1990 quarterfinals. James, you've seen some of these great players at this World Cup, Kylian Mbappe, you've seen Vinicius, you've seen Erling Haaland. This was Harry Kane being on that level, dragging England through, wasn't it? The header, as Matt Lawton said, managing to generate the power and the positioning to get it in the bottom corner. And that second goal. I mean, on yesterday's show, me and Gregor spent 20 minutes waxing lyrical about Michael Olise and Kylian Mbappe. And I opened by asking Gregor, is there anything left to say about these two players? Harry Kane is a man that you've written about a lot. Have you got anything left to say about Harry Kane?
He's just clutch, isn't he? I completely agree with Johnny's match report. He's, the best England player since of my lifetime, which is all I can really, go on. It was nice to see him have a moment of where he really just produced an absolute screaming finish that sort of made you go, wow. Because I think often in major tournaments, he's sort of just got that knack, and you sort of go away from it thinking, well, he just finds himself in the right place, and he's just, he's got that ability. But for him to sort of offer a reminder of the fact that he, is actually an unbelievable technician, as good a ball striker as there probably is in world football, really. I thought it was nice for him to have that moment. It's interesting that you compare him with those other, great names. I think we've obviously talked a lot about how it's the World Cup of Messi and Mbappe and Haaland, but I think what's really interesting is that all those three players in particular, Messi, Mbappe, and Haaland, are all quite limited, really, in their sort of contribution to overall play. I would almost argue that, it's hard to say Kane is more important to England than Messi is to Argentina, isn't it? But his all-round contribution, I think, is almost greater, because as well as being the absolute clutch guy, the world-class, dependable star that you can count on to put the ball in the back of the net, he's also, makes quite a big contribution to England's all-round play. He can drop into those number 10 positions and, play good passes as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Gregor, Harry Kane, more than on a level with some of those superstars that we've mentioned at this tournament, really delivering for England. He is an absolute superstar, isn't he?
Yes, yeah. And since he's completely switched to Bayern Munich and, gone up another level, I think the global renown has sort of soared as well. And his reputation is up there with those guys. And I think that's where he always wanted to be. And he always felt he should be testing himself and trying to put himself up with those kind of players, among the best in the world. And he just keeps coming up with moments, and he keeps delivering on when either his team or his country needs it most. And the second goal was outstanding. It was like to turn and to move the ball into that little kind of pocket of space that was just in front of and in between the fullback and the centre half, where almost neither of them were really committed to coming out and closing him down and stopping him from getting a shot off, and whipping it with such force in that motion into the top corner. It was just like the symmetry of it all was just absolutely perfect. There was no, it was very hard to turn and get a shot away there. He was marked so well for a lot of the game by Tuanzebe. Tuanzebe was brilliant. And that one moment, he just found the pocket of space that no one was really sure it was their responsibility to go out and close them down in, and he punished them ruthlessly. It was an absolutely magnificent moment.
One other kind of framing that's kind of interesting to put on Kane is from an England point of view, I think it's been very rare, again, certainly in my lifetime, it feels like all the really top players England have had have been at their best for England at major tournaments in the first half of their career. You think of players like David Beckham, Michael Owen and Wayne Rooney, obviously, are the really, really obvious ones who were sort of at their best, probably at their first couple of major tournaments, and then never, touch those heights again. Frank Lampard is brilliant at Euro 2004, and then, probably again, that was his best major tournament. He didn't get any better for England. Kane is the one really who stands out as someone who has got better and better and better. He's a more complete player, and he's been able to translate that completeness to his performances in an England shirt. Past the age of 30, he's got better and better and better. And that is a bit of an anomaly for recent kind of, world-class level England players who have tended to get worse at major tournaments, basically, from a kind of high bar to get worse.
Yeah, England will certainly be hoping he keeps getting better at this tournament. As we're recording this show, actually, Sam, who's a listener, has just emailed me in saying that given the total reliance that England have on Harry Kane, he thinks that maybe it's time to start a campaign to change the national anthem to God Save the Kane rather than God Save the King. I think there might be an idea in there. You never know, Sam. If England keep going and if Harry Kane keeps scoring. One thing which is more of a kind of broader thing, we're 4 games in now, and so much was made about this Thomas Tuchel squad. 2 players for every position, etc., etc. I'd say this is fairly unique. James, you're just talking about, other similarities with other tournaments. I'm not sure England have ever been in such a position where we've got no idea what the best team is, other than the fact that Declan Rice is vital, Jude Bellingham is the 10, and Harry Kane is the world-class striker. Basically, every other position on the pitch is up for grabs, isn't it? Especially now the problems at right back. Anthony Gordon and Marcus Rashford both seem to be better off the bench. It feels like one of them has to play 60 minutes okay, and then the other one will come on and do brilliantly, as Anthony Gordon did with 2 assists for these goals. I mean, is that a problem, Gregor, at this stage? Or, it's tournament football, you just roll with the punches and find a way to win, doesn't really matter?
I think both things can be true there, Tom. Yeah.
Excellent, lovely, ding, ding,
no,
ding.
I mean, ultimately, your last statement there is the truth. This is knockout football, and you find any way you can to win. But it's far from ideal that you don't know who your right back is. You certainly don't know who's going to be going into the next game against Mexico. And yes, I think it's less of an issue about the wide players than some people. I don't think it has to be nailed on. It's fine that there's not much between Rashford and Gordon, and you can choose one or other depending on the opponent or who's been really good in training, who the manager ultimately, who decides, feel is the most deserving of the place. That's okay. The other side, we know who should be playing, but he's not fit. And you see how like crucial it is that Saka is fit and firing and at his best. And you could say the same about Rice. He's a warrior, but he's not in the best shape. I think we can tell that. And he was kind of cramping up towards the end, despite going to right back and doing a job.
I think the same is true for Saka, though. There was a point where I think he turned his man and there was open field in front of him and he checked back and you're like, that is a guy that's not prepared to like put the afterburners on and sprint full tilt. He's not fully fit. So I'm not sure England are going to get that from Bukayo Saka. I mean, on the right back situation, is there anyone think in a world that Declan Rice starts at right back against Mexico, facing Julian Quinones, one of the players of the tournament so far? He scored a brilliant goal against Ecuador. We'll talk a bit more about Mexico in a second, but do England lose so much by taking Rice out of that central area, James?
I mean, I want to talk about the right back situation a bit because I'm a big admirer of Thomas Tuchel. I think he's a great manager. I think he's of the highest class, but I do not understand the situation that he's got himself into with the squad that he selected. He had Reece James, obviously, is the first choice right back, and I think that's fair. He is a great player, but he obviously has his well documented fitness issues. And you've got yourself in a situation where the backup right back who played here is a guy who played for the team that nearly got relegated last season and finished 17th, playing mostly at left back, not at right back, playing with a broken jaw. Is it any wonder that he didn't look very good? I mean, come on. I know, and this is nothing personal against Jed Spence, by the way. He's a good player, but I cannot conceive of a legitimate argument for that situation being preferable to having Trent Alexander-Arnold as your backup right back. I know he's not a perfect player and that he has some, his defensive side of his game is not as good as the attacking side of his game, but he's not a bad defender in a back four. He really isn't. There was a season when Liverpool finished with the fewest goals conceded in Europe and he played every game in a back four. Come on, the guy is not a terrible defender.
And as you saw cross after cross going into the stands or out for a goal kick or out for it, you think, you did cross your mind. My goodness. This is where, if your strategy is, let's get loads of crosses into the box, it'd be quite good to have one of the best delivery takers of delivery of a cross in world football, basically, in your side in a moment like this.
And it feels even more inexcusable and incomprehensible to be in this situation when, 10 years ago, the norm was for it to be a 23-man squad. Now managers have 3 extra places at their disposal. How have we ended up in this situation where, of course, and not everyone appreciates and understands the value of having good, glue guys, good squad men, good travellers in the party. But come on, you can't tell me that Jordan Henderson is adding more value to this England team than Trent Alexander-Arnold would be if he had that 26th place. You can't tell me that Dan Burn is adding more value than Trent Alexander-Arnold would be. Come on.
I totally agree. One thing I would say is I actually would have still picked Jed Spence. I would have taken him ahead of Livramento. And partly because Livramento is almost as injury prone as Reece James. So when you hang your hat on someone, the backup's got to be reliable. And that's what is also, I'd even broaden that a bit. There's a lot of sound logic and reasoning behind them, picking guys who he thinks are going to be solid citizens. And is Cole Palmer going to be happy sitting on the bench? Is he going to be someone who's fitting into his vision of turning England into a Premier League team? But when your only 2 options on the right really are Saka, who's nowhere near fit, and then Madueke, I think he's left himself short there too. And
they're quite similar players as well. There's not a real point of difference. I think Saka is better than Madueke, so you have that, I guess. But if Saka was the starter and you're bringing Madueke on,
there's just been too many of these issues. If Reece James is injured and Saka's injured, your right flank is a massive drop off collectively, and that was always quite foreseeable because Saka entered the tournament injured. Reece James entered the tournament with a terrible injury record. So I just feel that to not take Trent, to not take a Palmer or someone else who is a bit of a superstar and Palmer actually did deliver in the Euros. He's came on and scored in the final. Like, to not do either of those things just leaves you, it's extraordinary. It leaves you with Jed Spence and Noni Madueke as your right flank. I don't think that's anywhere near England's best right flank.
Yeah, it understandably will be the question that fans and journalists keep asking Thomas Tuchel, but the squad is what it is. So, I mean, there was head shaking at the idea of Declan Rice at right back. Our pal Tony Cascarino was on TalkSport bigging it up before this game, actually. So kudos to him that this was actually the solution that Thomas Tuchel went to.
And he got a bit of stick about it as well, actually, we should say. And he was right.
Cas loves a bold prediction. Listen, he said Paraguay were winning on Monday, didn't he, Gregor? We should have listened to him before we picked Germany. What do you think we think the solution is? The question I posed at the top was England don't know their best team. I thought Eze looked half decent off the bench, but it's all well having a squad packed with finishers, but where you starters, Thomas? What is the solution? If you think in Rice and Anderson, does Konza start at right back? As I say, we're going to talk a bit about Mexico in a second, but Julian Quinones looks like a man possessed on that left wing for Mexico. You know, he's big, he's physical, he's quick. They play the ball in over the top every single time. Whoever plays right back has got a proper game on their hands. Who's playing? Gregor?
Part of the issue is that Thomas Tuchel has also kind of leaned towards playing one, or the possibility of playing one defender who will tuck in and almost make a back three. And so you're going to have one of your fullbacks who's more courageous, shall we say, in possession. So I think playing Nico O'Reilly on the left and Jed Spence on the right in this game was it's a bit too much to say it was bold when you were playing DR Congo and you expect to win the game. But it was braver than a lot of people who were trying to predict the team or, you know, call what the team selection was going to be. It was bolder than anyone thought. So there's also an argument that Jed Spence is your best 1v1 defender in those situations. So if he's coming up against someone who has got pace and is having a really good tournament, like, you just wonder where his mind's at now, because, you know, you can drown out the noise to a certain extent, but he'll know that he's had his opportunity and this is a big issue now, and people are talking about should he be playing in the team. He's not really done the job. And you can see, I mean, there was that moment in the second half when Tuchel was berating him on the touchline. I don't know whether that was about just leaving Madueke in a 1v1 situation against the fullback as opposed to getting round him and crowding out the space. I'm not entirely sure, but he was really going at him, and there's been a few of those occasions. You just feel that he doesn't really trust him. And to be brutally honest, I come back to it. You look around the England team, and I think there are a number of players who this is either it's new to them or they're just not really stepping up under this. What we should acknowledge is extraordinary pressure. They're not stepping up to the extent of the match winners. So it is a conundrum. If you're asking me, I think personally Spence is still your best option given the opponent, and also given the fact that you don't have many other alternatives.
Not Konza. James, thoughts just very quickly before we go to a break?
I would be tempted to go for Konza, but obviously that very much depends on how fit John Stones is. But I think if you go Konza, Stones, Gay, O'Reilly as your back four, and that means that, you know, Rice can stay in central midfield. I just think after this game, I would just have a bit more confidence in Konza as the right back. He's obviously he's a bit more of a defensive option, but yeah, I'd have a bit more confidence in him personally as the right back than Spence if it's a kind of decision between those two.
Yeah, really interesting. A couple of days to debate it before the weekend. If you've got views on who England should play or that performance against DR Congo, do get in touch with me, tom.clarke@thetimes.co.uk. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back to chat about Mexico just after this. Welcome back to the Game Football Podcast from the Times and Sunday Times. These are our daily World Cup shows, and I'm Tom Clarke, and I'm joined by Gregor Robertson and James Gheerbrant. England then facing Mexico in Mexico at 1 a.m. on Monday morning. Everyone's going to want to stay up overnight now, aren't they, eh? They left me all alone for 2 weeks. Everyone will be joining me now. Oh, I'll be up. I'll stay up. Yeah. Fine. Finally ready to join the party. If you'd stayed up last night, you would have seen Mexico beat Ecuador. A very, very impressive performance. We'd said on Monday's show, Gregor, that I thought they had the easiest group, so I wasn't really prepared to commit how good they were. But my gosh, the first half, they absolutely blew Ecuador away. And amazing front foot football. It sounds like a cliche, but it felt like the entire stadium was driving them on. So England are going to face a real test in this one. But Gregor, on that performance by Mexico against Ecuador, the much touted potential dark horses Ecuador were made to look very ordinary in this one, weren't they?
You're right. The first half an hour in particular, it was electric. Mexico were outstanding. Played with such pace and bravery, actually. They played the ball through the thirds, and the first goal in particular, it was just a great kind of sequence. So I really like the look of Gilberto Mora as well, the little 17-year-old who was given his kind of first start, I think it was. Oh no, he played in the last game, and he kind of kept his place. You can tell why there's a lot of big hope around him. And you're right. Watched previous games, and you did kind of question the level of the opposition. The opening game against South Africa as well was dire, really. And yeah, I didn't really see much in this team, but they've grown and grown and grown. And now you've got 4 games into the tournament. You've not conceded a goal. You've got a 100% record. You've got, as you say, this enormous energy behind you, and that's inside that stadium. That even comes through the television. And you've got players who are really kind of starting to step up. I like Alvarado as well, the right winger. He's not got a great pace, but he's quite elegant. He moves kind of gracefully with the ball, and he's got a great delivery as well when he cuts in onto his left foot. And Jimenez leading the line really well too. So I think Cesar Montes, the centre half, so big threat from set plays. He almost scored a couple of goals in the second half. So thoroughly deserved win against a disappointing Ecuador, and it's going to be tough.
Yeah, England have got to improve, haven't they, James? You might have been impressed in parts with this performance against DR Congo, but they've got to raise their levels, haven't they?
Yeah, it's going to be a really, really hard game, definitely. And I think the altitude is going to be a factor. Mexico obviously are used to playing at altitude. England aren't. It's going to be a really, really tough game. Mexico have looked good.
Yeah, you mentioned the altitude there. Matt Lawson has done a really fascinating piece that's on the Times website now. 7,220 feet above sea level, this one. So the high altitude is going to be a big factor. England haven't been able to prepare for that. So we'll see the physiological challenges that Thomas Tuchel and his team will have to face.
The record at the Azteca as well, it's something like they've lost 2 out of 87 games ever there.
Really? Wow. God, I didn't see that stat.
It's extraordinary. So yeah, you've got a few things few hurdles to cross before I don't know, just in the whole kind of view of the game. It's going to be an intimidating place to enter and try and beat a host on home soil.
Yeah, and we're worrying about who's going to play right back. Never mind. There's plenty more analysis on England to come. We'll be hopefully catching up with Johnny Northcroft, Matt, and the rest of the team in the coming days before that match.